Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the MAG Economic Development Committee meeting for June 1st, 2021. MAG staff will now take roll call to ensure we have a quorum present for the meeting. Please note that all meeting attendees will be entered muted. Phone-only attendees will need to press *6 to unmute at the beginning of the meeting, and if they are subsequently muting by the host. Please remember to mute when you are not speaking to create a positive experience for all attendees. All right, we'll go ahead and do the roll call.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to go through the list of members. Please make sure that you're unmuted and indicate if you are present when I call your name. Mayor Barney.
Present.
Steve Betts. Tony Bradley. Paul Cardin.
Here.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Crane.
Here.
Angela Creedon. Here. Superintendent Donovan. Vice Mayor Edwards.
Here.
Thank you. Neil Giuliano. James Griffiths. Councilmember Guardado. Councilmember Hampton. Mayor Hermosillo.
Present.
Thank you. Senator Hoffman. Councilmember Jed.
Present.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Keating.
Here.
Thank you. Jim Kenny. Mayor LaVault.
Yes, good morning, Denise.
Good morning. Governor Lewis. Councilmember Melnar. Councilmember McMahon.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Osborne.
Present.
Thank you. Mayor Ortega.
Present.
Thank you. Councilmember Pineda. Darcy Renfrew. Councilmember Rowe.
Here.
Thank you. Mark Sanders.
Present.
Thank you. Todd Sanders.
Present. Good morning.
Good morning. Chairman Sellers.
Present.
Councilmember September.
Here.
Vice Mayor Smith.
Here.
Thank you. Daniel Spitzer.
Here.
Thank you. Marisa Walker. Bob Worsley.
Present.
Thank you. And Chair Luna is here. Is there anyone I did not call or that jumped on after we went through the names?
Steve Betts is here.
Guardado.
Okay. I got Steve Betts. I've got Councilmember Guardado. Anybody else? Okay. That concludes the roll call.
Excellent. A quorum is now present. All right, we'll go ahead and proceed. The web conference meeting of the MAG Economic Development Committee is now called to order. As a reminder, please remember to mute your phone when you are not speaking. I need to make this announcement. We operate our committee meetings in full transparency, giving the public access to committee meetings, materials, and discussion. The public cannot view the chat comments. As a result, we are disabling the chat feature in all committee meetings moving forward. If you need technical assistance during a meeting, please contact the helpline at 602-452-5095 or contact MAG staff assigned to this meeting, and that would be Denise. We appreciate your understanding in helping to maintain transparent discussion for the benefit of the public. Members of the public are asked to submit written comments related to this meeting during the MAG website. Comments may be sent at any time leading up to the meeting, but must be received at least 1 hour prior to the posted start time for the meeting. This is the opportunity for the public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdictions that are not on the agenda or that are on the agenda for discussion, but not for action. MAG staff, have we received any public comments?
Chair, we have not received any comments for this item or any other item on the agenda.
Great, thank you, Denise. Moving on to the approval of minutes. Our next item is the approval of the April 6, 2021 meeting minutes. Does any member of the EDC have questions or comments on the minutes?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the minutes as posted.
Who is this?
Mayor Ortega.
Ortega?
Second, Mayor Hermosillo.
Hermosillo? Okay. The motion has been made to approve the April 6, 2021 EDC minutes by Mayor Ortega. And we've had the motion from Mayor Ortega, seconded by Mayor Hermosillo. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, MAG staff, would you please take a roll call vote?
Thank you, Chair. I will go through the list of names. Please indicate how you vote when I call your name and be sure to unmute. Mayor Barney.
Aye.
Thank you. Steve Betts.
Yes.
Thank you. Tony Bradley. Paul Carden.
Yes.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Crane.
Aye.
Thank you. Angela Creedon.
Aye.
Thank you. Superintendent Donovan. Mayor Edwards.
Aye.
Thank you. James Griffiths. Councilmember Guardado.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Hampton. Mayor Hermosillo.
Yes.
Thank you. Centra Hoffman. Councilmember Judd.
Yes.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Keating. Mayor Laveau.
Yes.
Governor Lewis. Councilmember Melnar. Councilmember McMahon.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Osborne.
Aye.
Mayor Ortega.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Pineda. Councilmember Rowe. Mark Sanders.
Yes.
Todd Sanders.
Yes.
Thank you. Chairman Sellers.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember September.
Aye.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Smith.
Aye.
Thank you. Danielle Spitza.
Aye.
Marisa Walker. Bob Worsley.
Yes.
And Chair Luna, how do you vote?
I vote aye as well.
Okay. Thank
All
you.
righty, the motion. Anybody else?
Is there anyone I didn't call?
Yes, Councilmember Rowe, you called me, but I was a little slow on the draw.
Okay. You, Councilmember Rowe.
All
The
right.
agenda is passed unanimously. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, we're good, Denise?
Yes, we are.
Okay, the motion carries. Okay. Next item on the agenda is an update on the development of the new regional transportation plan by Audra Kester Thomas, MAG Transportation Planning Program Manager. Who will provide this update? Audra?
Thank you, Chairman Luna, members of the Economic Development Committee. Pleased to be with you today to give you an update on the latest activities associated with the development of our new regional transportation plan, which will inform the extension of Proposition 400. Included in your agenda packet today is our scenario planning report. If you've had some time, you have seen we have a lot of data included in that scenario planning report. I will provide just a brief overview, introducing you to the 4 scenarios that have been developed and are depicted in that report, but also give you the latest activities and direction coming from our Transportation Policy Committee, the body at MAG statutorily driven to develop the next regional transportation plan. Next slide. I'll orient you to this slide that outlines our performance-based evaluation process. You're familiar having seen this before. Next slide. We have spent the last 9 months or so focused on the technical analysis associated with evaluating almost 1,600 different projects and program ideas submitted by our member agencies. And we are now at the end of the technical lift associated with the program development, having delivered 4 fiscally constrained scenarios, 2 at a half cent, 2 at 1 cent, and we'll present a high-level overview of each of them today. Next slide. In the RTP scenario planning process, we took a look at what happens if the current regional sales tax, currently known as Proposition 400, expires in 2025 and is not renewed. The only transportation dollars left to spend and made available to the region are limited federal funds and declining gas tax revenues. This limited funding would be used for ongoing operations and limited improvements to the system we have today. If we did not continue this dedicated sales tax, we wouldn't be able to build new facilities or expand our transit system or engage in region-wide activities designed to help optimize the network. And so what you see here depicted in this map, using our transportation demand model, that by the year 2050, our region is standing still in evening rush hour congestion. Next slide. You'll see here a high-level overview of the philosophies we've taken in developing 2 different scenarios for consideration. We've done this at 2 different funding levels, as noted, but these 2 overarching scenario philosophies really represent different ways, and in some cases, different options for delivering mobility in our future. The new capacity scenarios seek to improve or maintain the region's mobility through the addition of new capacity, stretching and expanding the current system, and focused on big projects that carry big benefit, but also pretty big price tags. In the new capacity scenario, these are investments that are focused in new freeway and roadway investments, as well as rail-based transit projects. Alternatively, the systems optimization scenarios prioritize investments in infrastructure, technology, and other programs that improve or maintain the region's mobility with lower levels of investment in new capacity and fewer big projects. Ultimately, we'll end up with a plan containing projects and programs that fall somewhere between these scenarios and perhaps even between tax rates of a half cent and 1 cent. These scenarios are simply a decision support tool, helping us to identify opportunities and trade-offs associated with different types or levels of investments. Our policymakers, and specifically our Transportation Policy Committee, have used this information to help inform development of final projects and program selection. Next slide. So let's first start with the scenarios depicting the different projects and programs we could deliver if we retain a half cent sales tax for another 20 years. Next slide. This is the new capacity half cent scenario, again, aiming to improve or maintain the region's mobility through the addition of new capacity, including strategic investments in new roadway and rail-based transit projects. Our 2 half-cent scenarios make available approximately $28 billion to the region. That includes our federal formula funding, the projections coming from the Highway User Revenue Fund, in addition to the continuation of the half-cent sales tax. You'll see some key projects included here, including significant freeway expansion investments, including 2 segments of the SR 30, as well as the 24. 1 new bus rapid transit route on Scottsdale and Rural Road, and 3 light rail extensions, in addition to 1 streetcar extension. Because of the several large capital projects included in this scenario, ultimately, this has the smallest investment in program areas like technology and safety. Next slide. This is the system optimization half-cent scenario where priorities include programs that maintain or improve the region's mobility with less significant investments in new capacity. Investments including in this scenario are 4 bus rapid transit routes, 2 light rail extensions, significant investment in program areas like technology and active transportation, also known as bicycle and pedestrian improvements. And of the 4 scenarios, represents the smallest investment in new and expanded freeways, although I'll note the center segment of SR30 is included, as well as the 24. Next slide. If you've had a chance to review the scenario planning report, you'll note that we also do considerable comparisons between the scenarios, so you can compare and contrast the outcomes. What you'll see here is some of our modeling work. I'll orient you to the top line in gray, that's conditions today, contrasted to the bottom or the navy block, which is a no extension scenario out until 2050. What you'll see in between are the 2 half-cent scenarios. A really important message I want to convey to you today is that because of our high growth rate here in the region, we will continue to experience congestion year over year and a growth in that congestion. And no amount of funding we can provide in influx into the system will address that. Our job is to find ways to best mitigate those impacts through strategic investments. And you'll see here, we're able to make progress and work towards mitigated impact of growth into the future. Next slide. So while we're able to construct and invest in many important transportation solutions with the continuation of the half-cent, we wanted to continue to see how we could further press against continued congestion and mobility impacts if we increased our local investment up to 1 cent of a sales tax. We can see an impact with these additional revenues generated, and we'll demonstrate that in the following 2 scenarios. Next slide. So I'll reorient you. This is again the new capacity, now at 1 cent. When we double the sales tax component, that makes available to the region approximately $43 billion over the course of the next 20 years. And you'll see here a much busier map. With this additional funding, you'll see here in this scenario, the largest expansion of new miles of freeway of any of the scenarios, and represents the largest investment ultimately also in our arterial street or grid network. This scenario includes 4 proposed bus rapid transit lines, 3 light rail extensions, and 1 streetcar extension. This scenario also includes a significant investment to expand and improve regional bus service, and is the only scenario to include partial funding for the capital investment of the potential implementation of commuter rail. It is only approximately half of the funding available or needed to deliver the 110-mile system. More work would still have to be done to establish the other funding, and most notably the operations funding for such a system. I will note that this includes significant traffic interchange improvements and investments across the freeway system in 3 segments of the SR30, including the full build of the eastern and center segment and an interim facility for the western segment. Next slide. Finally, this is the system optimization 1 cent scenario, increasing investments into solutions that maximize our existing facilities. This includes additional programmatic investments in intelligent transportation systems or ITS, as well as a much larger investment in emerging technologies, widening our existing freeways and improving our arterial intersections, but also delivering the most robust transit portfolio of any of the 4 scenarios. It includes 6 proposed bus rapid transit lines, 3 light rail extensions, and the largest investment to improve and expand our regional bus service. This package also includes important widenings to the freeway network and the largest investment in programs like active transportation, those bicycle and pedestrian improvements, as well as emerging technology and transportation demand management. Next slide. Again, I'll orient you to this comparative slide, contrasting today's conditions to future no-build conditions, and then the 2 1-cent scenarios. You'll continue to see we'll experience pressures from our growth and congestion, but you'll see that they're mitigated a little bit more with this additional investment. Next slide. We know we've provided a lot of information. This at a glance slide provides a very high level summary of the capital investment projects articulated in each of the 4 scenarios by different kinds of modes. While each scenario delivers important investments to ensure the efficient movement of people and goods throughout the region, it also contains different choices, and in many cases, as I mentioned, different ways we can move from here to there. We are certainly interested in getting more feedback from you today, and we'll provide a little bit of an update in the following slides. Next slide. This is a comparative analysis of the programmatic approach articulated in each of the 4 scenarios. You'll see the different funding levels for each of these programs. I do want to draw your attention to the bottom. As I mentioned, we are able to expand slightly regional bus service in the half-cent scenarios, but by a much more tremendous amount in the 1-cent scenarios. Recognizing we have a tremendous amount of need and certainly have heard from both our member agencies and the public desire for more transit. You'll see extended investment in transit, especially in those 1-cent scenarios. Next slide. I'll orient you to our calendar here. You've seen this slide before. We've spent the spring developing these scenarios, have distributed them to our member agencies for review. And this past month, in the month of May, presented the information through our policy committee process. Our focus is this summer, attempting to develop a consensus portfolio of projects and programs that the region's comfortable with, and the associated tax rate and term for which we would build the final plan around. We are in a non-attainment area for air quality, so being able to reach consensus on those big projects and programmatic investments this summer enables us to move into the 5-month process of air quality conformity to deliver a final plan for adoption at the end of this calendar year, before moving into the year 2022 for enabling legislation. Next slide. So as I mentioned, we have taken this information through our policy committee process and been meeting one-on-one with our member agencies over the course of the last 6 weeks. Direction from our Transportation Policy Committee last month was to use the system optimization half-cent scenario as our starting point. We have been we were directed to have member agencies submit priorities that perhaps weren't in that scenario, or things they felt really strongly about in that scenario, to submit those letters by the end of last week, so we could spend this last couple of days over the weekend and this week developing revised scenarios based on that direct feedback from our member agencies. Our Transportation Policy Committee has given MAG staff the direction, taking all of this information and priorities from our member agencies, that while we're starting at the system optimization half-cent scenario, to bring back a revised scenario that may be over a half-cent or at a different term. We have utilized the 20-year horizon for the sales tax, but our Transportation Policy Committee has directed us to also investigate, if feasible, an extension to 25 years to see what else we could deliver within that horizon. Transportation Policy Committee has also committed to meet more frequently, and in doing so, we have a special TPC meeting this Friday where we'll be walking in these new scenarios based on the feedback from member agencies to demonstrate what we can do or what we cannot still do given these limitations. And really our focus this month through Transportation Policy Committee is to drive towards a consensus composition of major projects and programs and the associated funding rate and term that we can build a final plan, draft plan for consideration and to move into air quality conformity. Chairman Luna, I believe this is my last slide. I'd be happy to take any further questions from the committee.
Great, thank you, Ms. Kester Thomas. Are there any questions from the membership? Any questions? Yes.
This is Councilmember Malner from Glendale. I just wanted to ask a couple of questions regarding the different plans, and specifically, as we sell this to our constituents, how do we differentiate the benefits that the different extensions are going to bring to my citizens versus benefits to the region as a whole? I mean, will you have some breakdowns for that, some handouts that then we can use to help our citizens understand that process?
Chairman Luna, Councilmember Malnar, absolutely. Once we're able to drive towards a consensus of the projects and programs that are articulated and we successfully make it through our air quality conformity process, MAG stands ready to provide the communication tools as necessary to help you communicate the benefits of the final portfolio.
Okay, thank you. My last question has to do with, I'm always concerned about economic growth and what's going to happen in the future. Has the committees, are they looking at the potential of a downturn and a financial recession once this is authorized, and how that would impact the program? Are you considering those scenarios?
Chairman Luna, Councilmember Malnar, great question. We went through a real robust process of projecting our federal, state, and local revenues last fall. We took a fairly conservative approach. In part, perhaps we still feel the sting of the Great Recession here in this region and the deferral of approximately 50% of Proposition 400. So we utilized consulting resources both for our federal projections and then the established protocol here through ADOT to better understand and project sales tax revenues. We've taken a conservative approach in doing so, and that memo outlining our projections is available if you're interested.
Okay, yeah, I'd be interested in seeing that. And finally, at what point in time are you going to be asking for council members and other folks to get involved in promoting this plan?
Chairman Luna, Councilmember Malnar, as soon as we're done, of course, we would appreciate your support all the time in how important this endeavor is, both from a planning perspective and the process for which we have taken. But we will hopefully be delivering that consensus plan this summer and ultimately presenting to Regional Council for their consideration of adoption, a final plan at the end of this year. Your support up until that point is certainly appreciated, but from our perspective, the big push will likely be into 2022, both when we go for enabling legislation with the state legislature and then ultimately with success there to a vote potentially in November of 2022. And so that pressure and partnership will certainly be looked at, especially next year.
Okay, thank you very much.
Are there any other questions from the membership?
Chairman Luna, Eric Horsborn from Buckeye.
Go ahead, Eric.
Thank you. Audra, as always, good job. I feel like every time you come in and do such a remarkable job of sharing all of the work that you guys have gone through to do this. I come in and pour cold water all over everything. So I apologize for that, but I really appreciate what you're doing and what MAG is doing to try and figure out this puzzle of transportation planning and funding and projects in the next 20 years. So Chair, I've had the opportunity to speak at several different meetings that we've had, whether it's MAG Regional Council or the TPC. And from Buckeye's perspective, the plan as it exists right now, without State Route 30 segment from Loop 303 to 85 in Buckeye is really a non-starter. The plan itself is a non-starter if that's not included for Buckeye. That segment was approved in the previous Prop 400 and was not built thanks to the sting of that recession that Audra had talked about. But that's a very, very important part of the future, not only to Buckeye, but the entire valley. And the reason is that's the reliever for I-10. So that's our front door leading into the entire Metro Phoenix area. We're already congested in that location. We'll have a project to add a lane in each direction, but with the growth that we are going to see over the next 20 years in the city of Buckeye, that additional lane in each direction is not going to suffice to handle that amount of traffic. And in the case of that State Route 30, we took that State Route 30 route serious and put that in our general plan and made sure that we planned around that. And between I-10 south to the State Route 30, from 85 to about Perryville, which is our eastern boundary, there's over 11,000 homes that are in some phase of development over the next couple of years. And all of that traffic right now will be dumping onto I-10. Along the State Route 30, that's an employment corridor for us. And there are about 20,000 jobs that have us shortlisted for projects in that area. So from an economic development perspective, not including this section of State Route 30 would be detrimental to economic development in the Metro Phoenix area. And both of these projects would add a tremendous amount of traffic onto I-10, which would continue to overload I-10. And again, that being our front door, I don't think that's our main artery of commerce back and forth to the west that has to stay open and flowing. And this doesn't talk about any of the projects that we have west of State Route 85. Some of those master plan communities are bigger than the size of Tempe. And when those get up and go in and start putting traffic onto I-10, we're going to have a real issue moving forward. So we are 100% in favor of some of the options that Audra is talking about, whether it's more revenue to build more of the infrastructure, or it's a longer term, whatever that looks like moving forward. But this section of State Route 30 is vital for the entire region as an I-10 reliever. And that's not to say that this is more important than projects in other areas. We travel around the Metro Phoenix area quite a bit and see the need for some of these projects in other areas across the entire region. But I can't say it enough how important it is that we keep this artery of commerce going between the state of Arizona and California. And with that, Chair, I'll be quiet. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. It looks like Betty Guardado has a comment.
I do. Thank you. Audra, just can you go back to the map to where the progress is going to happen, where the new lines are going in for light rail? And then can you explain where those are at? Just because my computer is not, for whatever reason, I just can't look at the map.
Certainly. So thank you, Chairman Luna. I would look at this thumbnail, but it'll be easier for me just to articulate if you're concerned or interested just in the rail components. Depending on the scenario, there's up to 3 potential light rail extensions all heading west, including the I-10 West extension, a extension for West Phoenix in or around the Camelback area, as well as the ASU West extension. All three of those projected and included in also City of Phoenix's T2050 plan. There is one streetcar extension coming from Tempe and east to the City of Mesa. Does that answer your question?
It does. It does. Thank you. Thank you for that. And thank you for this great presentation. You've done an amazing job. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you so much, Audra. Appreciate that presentation. And again, if you have any questions, please reach out to Audra, and I'm sure she can provide this information for you. So thank you so much. This item is just for information, discussion only. The next agenda item is an update on the housing market in the region. Steve Hensley, Manager, Advisory at Zonda, will provide this update. Steve?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. Happy to discuss this briefly with you and give you an idea of what's been going on in the housing market on the for sale new construction side, as well as highlighting a little bit of what's going on with the existing home supply here in the Metro Phoenix area. Could you move to the next slide, please? One more, please. Perfect, thank you. So I wanted to first preface this brief discussion based off of the trends that we're seeing as far as in-migration here in the state of Arizona. And obviously, I'm sure you're all aware that this has been sort of a hotbed for people moving here. But I think this is important to try to demonstrate you know, who's actually moving here and where we're seeing a lot of the new development and what type of demographics are moving here. So on this first page here, we have some information from LinkedIn. It's the green bars on the left. So the LinkedIn tracks when one of their users changes their professional locations on their profiles to a different location. So whenever somebody moves from out of state or creates a profile saying that they're in the greater Phoenix area, that registers on their user database on their backend servers. And as a way to show where people are at. And Arizona has consistently ranked in the top 10 cities over the past 12 months or so through April of 2021. So the last 12 months, they're ranked. Arizona has been ranked or Phoenix more particularly has been number 7 on the list out of 10. So these are professionals who are moving to this state, which is it's a very positive thing. And then the other slide that we have here on this page is just some user search data from the Redfin real estate search. This is their internal information as well, where they're tracking who's actually viewing and searching for homes in different locations and where they're located at when they're searching for them. So on this, you can sort of see we're seeing a trend, at least 23% almost are of people looking to search in Phoenix are based in the Los Angeles, California area, and then Seattle as well. So a lot of West Coast searches, as well as some higher net worth searches in higher tax states over in the East Coast as well. So this sort of is just a preface as to who's actually moving here and what are the demographics. So they're a little bit they're wealthier. They're at least from the West Coast. If somebody moves here, they're not as price sensitive to houses and home prices as some of the local residents here in Arizona are, and that's because they're used to such high home values there that they think they're getting a bargain. So I think that there is some connection to why housing prices have been rising so rapidly over the last 12 months, 15 months even, is because we are having an influx of net immigration, but they're coming from, they're either very wealthy people or affluent people, and they're also coming from high cost states where it is a little bit, it's just a lot more expensive. So they're comfortable paying more here. But it's less of a sticker shock for them than what we're seeing from Arizona residents. And if you could go to the next slide. So I wanted to highlight, so I just wanted to preface that and now move into actual supply levels. So this is an existing housing supply here for the Metro Phoenix area. And over the last 15 months or so, housing supply is down about 50% of single family detached housing. And that is extremely significant decline. And a lot of it has to do with, like we were just talking about, the in-migration that we're experiencing. When somebody moves here, they're not selling a home here, and it's essentially a net loss as far as a housing unit when a new resident moves to Phoenix. So I think that is part of what's driving the housing supply here. And like I said, down about 50% over the last 12 months. And, you know, that's starting to have upward pressure on prices as well. Could you move to the next slide? And this slide represents speculative supply from home builders. So over the last 12 months, 15 months, we're down actually about 70% of the total number of speculative supply that builders are building. So speculative supply is they're starting a home without actually having a buyer or a purchase contract prior to that home starting. But this just highlights sort of where the homes are at and how little supply that we have. Again, like 70% down year over year. And essentially what we're noticing now with home builders is they've stopped building inventory homes for the most part because they have so many people interested in purchasing homes, and they have very large wait lists right now. Anywhere from some subdivisions report anywhere from 25 to 50 people just sitting on a wait list waiting to get a home and sign a purchase contract. So home builders don't need to build more speculative supply right now. They have enough buyers waiting in their pockets to purchase those homes. But it is significant, and we're just it's really fascinating times right now how much activity there is in the home building industry as far as new buyers. And another issue that is really sort of coming to the forefront is the lack of labor and material issues that that the home builders are having. A lot of our clients, we actually just had a roundtable discussion with some of the division presidents for the home builders here in Arizona, and every single one of them had positive things to say about demand, but very concerning things to say regarding labor and materials. There just simply aren't enough people within the skilled labor industry to build the homes to meet the demand that we're experiencing in the industry right now. To highlight that, we're on track to build right around 35,000 single family homes this year in the Metro Phoenix area. For context, between 2004 and 2006, home builders were building around 60,000 homes a year. So we're barely at half of what was being built then as we are now. And that's because a lot of labor is no longer in this market, or they moved on to a different industry. So that's a huge constraint that we're hearing from our clients. And it is something that is not likely to be resolved anytime soon, but that's sort of what we're dealing with. So if you can move to the next slide, please. So that sort of leads us into the pricing side of things and where home prices are at now, with all the upward pressure from all the demand that we're seeing and the lack of labor to actually build enough new homes, and all this migration that we're experiencing in the metropolitan area is all starting to affect home values and why they're rising so rapidly. So this shows this is just a bar chart of total sales versus price points for existing homes. So over the last 12 months, about 53% of homes being sold here in Metro Phoenix on the resale side were priced between $160,000 and $320,000. So that's sort of the meat of the market with regards to that. But the median price of a single family home, existing home here in Phoenix, is closer to $360,000, $370,000 right now. So, and that pricing, those prices are up about 30% year over year. So we're just seeing rapid price appreciation experienced right now, and there is concern that a larger segment of the population here in Arizona is getting pushed out of the market because of that because they cannot afford to buy a home at these higher prices. And if you can move to the next slide, please. Same thing on the new home sales side. By price point, again, similar, just like that last slide was. About 50% of new home sales over the last 12 months were priced between $240,000 and $400,000. And just last month in May, we reached a median new home price of around $410,000. So over the last 12 months, that's up about 20%. So what we're experiencing now is these prices and the volume and the meat of the market that we were seeing over the last 12 months, the median prices are now exceeding both of those on the new home side and on the existing home side. So there is a lot of concern that people are being priced out of the market, but I want to tie that back to our discussion earlier about who's moving here and why that may be correlated. And what we're hearing out in the field when we're talking with sales representatives and realtors and getting a sense for that is the out-of-town buyers aren't afraid of a $500,000 house. That is nothing to them if they're moving from Washington, because that's not even close to the median average there. So they see the home prices here and they say, yes, we can do that all day. But when we're talking and hearing about how local Arizona residents feel about those prices, they're getting concerned that prices are rising too rapidly. So we have these converging forces of outside buyers and local buyers sort of fighting over the same homes, but the outside buyers have a lot more purchasing power, and they're less afraid of that price point. So it's an interesting dynamic that we're experiencing right now, and it really is becoming a concern long term, especially for the lower income earners who are local here in Arizona. They're going to have a difficult time purchasing homes moving forward. If you could go to the next slide. Just wanted to highlight this really quick too. So this is over the last 12 months, this is just new home list prices. This is the average. So I referenced median earlier at 410. The average is a little bit over $450,000. But this just shows you over the last 12 months, look at that line. That is just, it has just exploded over the last 12, 15 months. And at some point you have to imagine that it will slow down, but this is where the market is at right now, and it is some of the highest prices that we'll ever see. I think at least it's a sticker shock to a lot of people. And then if you go to the next slide, just highlights again what I was discussing. This is annual sales over the last 12 months. So the prices aren't as high as the $360,000 median home price that I just referenced, but it shows you again, just over the last 12 to 18 months, the line on this graph is just, it's just going up exponentially all of a sudden. And it's just sort of like runaway prices at the moment. And that's because there's just so much demand and we do not have enough supply in the marketplace right now to meet all of that. And builders are not going to be able to quickly build their way out of this. It's going to be a pressing issue for at least the next few years, in our opinion. And it's something that I think people should be aware of. And I believe that was the last slide that I had. So happy to take any questions and or any concerns, comments, welcome to anything. And if not, thank you very much for letting me be part of this and give you an overview.
Thank you, Mr. Hensley, for that update. Are there any questions from the membership? All right, this item was for information discussion only. Thank you, Stephen. I appreciate your presentation. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is an update on advancing health and equity through workforce housing. Maria Lochner and Laban Lamy from the city of Tempe and Kristen Busby from ULI will provide this update.
Somebody may be muted.
I think they're muted. Kristen, there you are, Kristen.
Hello. Hi, this is Kristen Busby. I think that those are Tempe slides. So I'm going to let Lavon or Maria jump in if they would like to, or maybe we could advance to mine and then go back. It's up to your order.
Lavon, are you,
I'm
do you want to
good.
go ahead?
This is Lavon. I'm good either way. If we wanted to do, I'd say it's up to you guys. If we want to do Tempe's first and then back into ULI.
Yeah, why don't we go ahead and do, Lamont, why don't we go ahead and start with you since the slide's already up?
Okay, perfect. Maria?
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for having us here today. If you could please go to the next slide. So we were here with Kristen back in 2019, and a lot has happened since then. So I thought we would, Lavon and I thought we should give you an update on all the different things that have happened and going over those initiatives. Lavon, if you please.
Sure thing. So with the initiatives implemented, it's starting back in 2017, the city of Tempe really started taking a very serious look at affordable housing, what the availability of affordable housing was, what our capacity for affordable housing was, and then looking at ways to maintain or develop or preserve affordable housing. So kind of just as we've gone, the affordable housing strategy document, which is comprised of 20 independent strategies that are designed to preserve and invest in affordable housing, was approved July 31st, 2019. In January of this year, our mayor and council approved a Hometown for All initiative, which we'll speak a little bit more later in this presentation. But that does create dedicated funding for affordable and workforce housing projects. The Tempe Coalition for Affordable Housing, Inc., we affectionately refer to it as the affiliate. This is a nonprofit affiliate, 501c3 of the Public Housing Authority, which allows us to create and maintain permanently affordable rental housing for affordable and workforce households. We are also continually conducting proactive analysis of the jurisdiction. What is our housing inventory? At what income levels is housing available? What is the speed with which housing units are being brought online, and what's in the pipeline, so that we are constantly attempting to project out over 3, 5, and 10 years what that's going to look like as we're working with housing valuations, housing inventories and the availability of stock. We are also working to create a template for the valuation of affordable and workforce housing as a public benefit. It would seem that with just about every project, the valuation for monetizing the inclusion of affordable or workforce housing in a project comes up. So the newest project we have is starting to create a template for how we would value and monetize the inclusion of affordable housing given the legislative confines of Arizona. Next slide, please. So just as kind of a walk back in time and a little bit of a reminder, when we did our initial housing inventory, the overall affordable, which was capped out at 80% of the area median income and below, workforce is 81 to 120, and market is anything over 120% of the area median income. So with the initial baseline inventory that was conducted in 2017, an overall 49.3% of housing stock in Tempe, whether it was rental or owner, was available to households at those income levels. What we set out as, I would say, an aspirational goal at best, would be on that long term through 2040, maintaining the affordability blend so that folks who would like to live in Tempe are able to live in Tempe and have a selection of housing units. One thing I do point out is, with the market rate in the workforce housing, you can always choose to rent a unit that is less than what your budget is, but you cannot, of course, rent a unit that is more than what your budget is. So we have very much focused on the lower ends, the extremely low income of the affordable income ranges, particularly the 0 to 30% AMI, folks who arguably Social Security or SSDI only incomes, making sure that we have units available for the most financially vulnerable within the market. Next slide, please. So with that and Hometown for All, so again, this was mayor and council approved in January of 2021. One of the goals we set out in the affordable housing strategies was to create a dedicated funding stream for the creation, preservation, or development of affordable and workforce housing. So with the Hometown for All initiative, equivalent 50% or an equivalent of 50% of the building permit fees that would go into the general fund are being allocated to our nonprofit, the Tempe Coalition for Affordable Housing, Inc. The stack of covenants and restrictions on that funding is about 3 inches thick. We can only use it to, create affordable housing, acquisition for assemblage, whether it's improved or unimproved properties, acquisition for permanently available workforce rentals. There are funds for developers that were put in here. We will be accumulating, all of the money is divided into 1/5 into the various pots of funding. Once we have $1 million accumulated in the funds for developers, we would put out a notice of funding availability in which you can come in and our goal would be to get as many affordable or workforce housing units in your project as possible. So tell us how you would do that. Now we are saving $1 million. We are waiting until we get to $1 million because that's a pretty decent sum of money. So nothing says it would all go to one project. It could go to 2 500s, 4 250s, but getting that decent sum of money gathered up so that there is a distinct incentive to have folks apply. There is also a voluntary donation component. So 20% of residential and 10% of commercial building permit fees. Anyone's welcome to contribute to the nonprofit. It is a 501. So, they get a little bit of a tax benefit there if they do it voluntarily. And with that, we have been able to, through some pledges, through the guaranteed quote unquote funds coming out of the general fund, we are looking at the neighborhood of just under $5 million in available funding at the end of next calendar year that we would be able to utilize for this project and for creating affordable and workforce housing. One thing I just kind of like to throw out there is we did just acquire our first little 5,000 square foot lot that was just dirt. It's the Hometown for All. We are looking at it as permanently affordable home ownership. So we'll be working with that to figure out, using that as our pilot for exactly how does this work now that we have the mechanics going on one small project. Next slide, please. And Maria, I think this is yours.
Yes, thank you. So another thing is that Tempe's been very proactive. We're taking a much more proactive approach in how we're achieving our goals. As Levon mentioned, we completed our housing inventory in 2018. We did an update just last year, and we've committed to doing 10-year projections and regular updates. We're also following the affordable housing impact statements more diligently since now they've been in place for a couple of years, and we can track pre and post development to manage our inventory better going forward. We're providing annual updates specifically to council on all of the progress. And most recently, we have started pre-clearance of vacant city lots to help create additional units. Next slide, please. Actually, this is thank you. So on that, the pre-clearance of the vacant lots, we're looking at 5 lots in particular that are owned by the city. And what the goal is to try to perform all of the environmentals that are necessary and get the lots ready for development. That includes any archaeological, any other surveys that have to be done. And the city is taking on that role as a way to incentivize development and get it through the pipeline faster. And those 5 lots that we're currently working on, we are going to see the creation of up to 390 units of both affordable and workforce housing. In addition, we've identified through the affordable housing strategy, various developer incentives that we can use to help promote this program. Also, we have the Hometown for All funding pipeline, as Levon alluded to. Since its inception just a few months ago, we already have 8 projects that are using this initiative, and almost 500 units in various stages of development are currently in design or production. Also, we have $10 million in pledges and commitments that have been made to the housing affiliate that we should see that money coming in over the next 5 years. And all of that is, by the way, in addition to any general fund allocations. Next slide, please. Most significantly, at least on my end, on the economic development end, is how we are planning to value affordable and workforce housing as a public benefit. Just last week, we engaged an expert to help us develop an assessment template that will enable us to determine how can we value public affordable housing as a public benefit. Can we do it validating the usage of the vouchers as a basis, for example, whether allowances need to be created so that we can determine what is the actual public benefit of affordable and workforce housing so that it can be incentivized in future development agreements. Next slide, please. And Levon can finish up.
So as you know, kind of going back to where we started when we originally started looking at affordable and workforce housing, you know, we had 3 main buckets of goals. One was to dedicate a dedicated funding stream so that we knew what we had to work with. Expand the use of incentives, fee waivers, reimbursements, abatements, et cetera, and then, you know, implementing the affordable housing strategies, impact statements, and actually getting moving. So, you know, one of the things that we are very proud of is from 2018 until now, we have actually at this point accomplished all of the initial 3 stages that needed to be done in order to to have the foundation down in order to really get this train to start leaving the station. You know, as Maria said, we have quite a few projects that would yield quite a few units over the next 5 years. So as we continue to work with this and, you know, do some of these little pilot projects that really help us figure out the mechanics of making this go, we will be modifying this and updating is now that we have a lot of that real world, or once we get that real world experience of actually getting this off of paper and into practice. And I would say thank you very much for your time, and we're available for any questions anyone may have.
Hey, Kristen, were you going to make some comments?
Yeah, I have a few slides and I'll just run through them pretty quickly.
Okay, if you could go ahead and do that.
Okay, I think that you go to the next slide, that'd be great. One more. Are there slides that come after this?
Yes, but I think it's the other presentation.
Yeah, this is Craig with MAG. That's the last slide that I have. Let me check on another presentation real quick. No, that's all I have.
And that, you know what, that is actually okay. I can just kind of tag on to what, and just do a little bit verbally. This is Kristen Busby. I'm a director at the Urban Land Institute. I just want Chairman Luna, members of the MAG Economic Development Committee, thank you so much for your time today. It has been 1.5 years since we last chatted about the project that we had been working on, and we really couldn't have predicted what was about to unfold. Before the pandemic, you know, we knew Arizona was already grappling with the housing affordability crisis, and, you know, we're, thank goodness, recovering and our economy is opening and it's burgeoning again, but we really can't overlook the shortage that Stephen was just talking about. And the affordability crunch is getting worse and average prices, you know, increasing and soaring rapidly. But so are the socioeconomic disparities. The gaps between the, you know, high wage earners and lower wage earners. People are being priced out of a lot of these higher opportunity core areas, you know, the places where it's critical to connect to transit and health and cultural systems. ULI, I'm just going to mention something that's pretty recent. ULI is a global nonprofit and for the real estate industry, a research think tank, if you will. And just recently, our Terwilliger Center for Housing put out an attainability dashboard that was just developed a few months ago. And if you haven't seen this research, I encourage you to go online to uli.org and check it out. It contains a selection of key data points and metrics that provide a high-level snapshot of the extent to our region's housing market and just what the range of choices are available to our workforce. One of the reports actually looks really specifically too at COVID-19 and the associated economic disruption for housing needs and solutions, and really at the disparities between populations. And, as you can imagine, some of the lower earner populations not being able to absorb the financial the shocks. And it's pretty cool because you can download the reports, but you can also download some interactive data and spreadsheets that allow you to explore the data on a more granular level. And when we were here 18 months ago, we were giving you a preview of a project we were just getting set out to start. We had received a grant from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation and collaboration with our ULI National Office to study housing affordability through the lens of health and equity. And ULI wanted to be additive to this, there's a lot of community and business leaders and some of the different circles studying housing affordability, and some efforts around there have been organized and are underway for some bit of time. And we wanted to be additive to our collaborative partner efforts. So we actually decided to study a piece of the puzzle related to workforce housing, and really looking at solutions that were tailored to without a focus on more government or philanthropic grants. We'd actually really looked at the income level between 60 to 120% AMI. And we were really thinking about the teachers and firefighters, hospital staff, young professionals, essentially frontline workers and essential service workers. So we've spent the better part of 18 months studying strategies and convening partner conversations to kind of ground truth this for Arizona and our unique environment here. And we have a report now that's available on our website that gives the suite of strategies and things we studied. I can just put my presentation, I think it's already basically up on our website, but as you can imagine, there was no silver bullet strategy, unfortunately, that we could hang our hat on. That's going to require a multi-prong approach. We were really fortunate to have a very talented ASU graduate student who she did not just one, but two master's theses on the research. She actually did a very candid examination of the barriers facing many residents as it relates to displacement and how you can make investment in core areas without displacing people from the neighborhoods where they live. She studied 74 policies and kind of ground truth them for the Arizona policy context, and all that great information is on our website. And we then also looked at a lot of key themes in solutions related to planning and regulations, finance and capital, land and location, and also just different ways of looking at design and construction, since as Stephen mentioned, construction and labor costs are such a big contributor to the housing crisis right now. And I'm not going to go into, I'm just going to leave you with two of the kind of key opportunities that we were hoping that, maybe the region could be considerate of is a comprehensive regional strategy that could provide a kind of coordinated plan of action among all partners to kind of give us a baseline of where we are and where we're going. There's several other metro areas in the country have been undertaking this for the last few years. I know Atlanta is one of them that we've kind of looked at as a model. And then there are so much data and so much good information that are coming out of just different partner groups and things that maybe if we could find a way to have like a web clearinghouse of all of this that could kind of be a centerpiece for all the resources and tools and data, that would be really, I think, a step forward. We talked a little bit about maybe ASU Start a Center for Affordable Homes in the Family could be a convener for such a tool locally. And Arizona, we were one of 4 other ULI district councils that were part of this grant effort. So there's information on some like ULI Chicago laser studied 80 accessory dwelling units. And we were lucky and fortunate to have access to all of their good information. And when you go to our website, you can get access to the other district councils reports. And we'd be happy to answer any questions. And I just quickly just say that, I'm glad Tempe was able to dive into some of their strategies. It's always so impressive to see what they have going on. We did have them as part of the task force because they were one of the first cities in the region to get out in front and start addressing housing affordability. So we had them as a strategic partner at the table to kind of make sure that we were examining place-based solutions, and hopefully we'll be able to provide additional education to cities as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Appreciate that presentation. Are there any quick questions from the membership, real quick?
Chairman Luna, this is Steve Betts.
Okay, Steve.
I had a quick comment slash question. LaVon, I know you and I have talked about this a bit, and I wanted to applaud what you all are doing, you and Maria and the city of Tempe. And I know that affordable housing, the 60 AMI and below, is so much harder. And so you do need to give incentives really to make that work in the marketplace. But you and I have talked about the fact that 80 to 120 AMI, the workforce, that missing middle piece, my theory is I believe that is doable in the marketplace if you design properly, if you really work at it. And I just I want our takeaway to be, I don't know that we necessarily have to have our local governments lean into that. I don't know that it needs to necessarily need the incentive as much. And I guess, I'm hopeful that the marketplace, I know prices have gone up, and Stephen's right about that labor's gone up and materials have gone up. I'm hoping there's going to be a little bit of correction in wood coming this fall, winter, that'll help us a bit. But I've got a test case in your community that I'm going to try to, deliver that missing middle at a market economy project. But do you have any thoughts or comments on that?
Well, and we have we have chatted about this, and I agree with you that the 80 to 120, a lot of times the market in and of itself can handle with the project that it's planned for with that. One of the pluses with the way we design this is while the money is available to do that, if we really need to get in there and incentivize that, to where if that's not an area that we need to be as heavily focused on, we can utilize these funds much more for that lower AMI range where we really, the most vulnerable and can make sure that there's housing availability. Where we are is we just cannot go over that cap. So anything under that is pretty much fair game. So I know we're looking at your project and a few others that would be coming in to see how that will play out with that kind of that workforce range and the number of units and the impact statements. And do we really need to pay, I don't want to say do we need to pay attention to that, because that's not what I mean, but right. Do we really need to be heavily involved with that, or should we stick to some of the others that really need a lot more,
right,
a lot more work to make a pro forma work?
We need your help. I mean, we need your assistance. It may not need to be incentives, though. It may not need to be. We just need your creativity. We need your to work with us to make it work in the marketplace. Okay.
Right. And again, we're a lot of this we're just trying out, so we are definitely open to comments and feedback, and massaging this as it goes, because it makes sense in our heads. It makes sense to the consultants, but then we all know, you put it on the ground and get it going, you have to do some, you got to tweak it a little bit. So
right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the presentation. Appreciate it. This item was on the agenda for information discussion only. Thank you so much. The next item on the agenda is a report from the Greater Phoenix Economic Council. Tim Bursett, Senior Director of the Government and Community Affairs, will provide this report. Go ahead, Tim.
Thank you, Chairman Luna and committee members. I am Tim Bursett. I have been promoted since last time, so I'm now Vice President of Government and Community Affairs.
Congratulations, Tim.
Thank you. Under the tutelage of the great Steve Betts here on your committee, working hand in hand with him. And then, do you have the slide, Denise? Next slide up. Or whoever's earning it, pardon me, Mr. Chairman. If you could go next slide. Okay, so just a quick update here. I know I'm probably sitting between you and many members in lunch, so I will make this about 5 minutes. Just going to go over some year-to-date metrics and then some of our FY22 action items. None of us could have predicted a year ago as we were entering FY21 what the year was going to bring. I know that it's been troubling times for many individuals and communities over the last year, but we've had incredible leadership in the region with members of this committee, as well as our municipal staff and leadership who have done an incredible job getting those resources and things to their residents. And so, we really appreciate all of the MAG communities and all the work that they have been doing over the last year. As we looked forward, we had set out our metrics as we do every year. Again, not knowing what was going to happen, and we even had a little clause in there to maybe readjust midway. And it turns out, really, the business attraction efforts continued well. As you can see here, year to date, we have 34 companies with over 7,900 jobs. That is through April 30. If you see there at the bottom of the slide, while these have not been validated, I did check this morning, and we were actually up to about 37 jobs, and now just north of 8,700 jobs. So again, the prospects are looking good. We are doing very good on our annual metrics as we finish up through June 30. And so, over the last year, we've just worked with, again, all of our community partners and our private entities to stay focused on business attraction as we're coming out of this. I don't think I need to tell everybody, the economy is going to start cooking here. People are still moving to Arizona, as the last few presentations have shown. So we have no sign of slowing down, and GPEC will continue to do that. Mr. Chairman, if you could hit next slide, please. Again, here is our prospect activity. Now, this prospect activity is about on par with what we would see years past. What is kind of crazy to think about, though, is that our business development team, who is generally always on the road, sales missions, trade shows, everything, did not travel, pardon me, the last year, but instead we're focused on making Zoom calls and regular phone calls and doing some of our marketing work, our omni-channel campaign work, things like that. So it is pretty interesting to look at these numbers. In the beginning of FY21, we noticed some of those office locates and projects dialing back a bit due to the pandemic, but industrial manufacturing moving up, some of these entities with capital getting ready to expand and things like that. So again, numbers are looking good here, for the past year. Looking at what we looked at, we're feeling very good moving into FY22 with these numbers. Next slide, please. And again, just as a map here, and this will lead into some of the work that we have been doing, these are our prospects by location. And as you see there, California, still a huge pipeline for us. Our marketing and comms team, again, pivoting to almost entirely online due to the pandemic, using omni-channel campaigns to target everything from small entrepreneurs all the way up to larger entities that are looking for additional capital, looking to expand. The comms, the marketing team with our data science team put together a great campaign. We're getting in front of those. We're seeing those prospects. We're having those conversations. And as you can see here, it's still a heavy international presence. If you were to go back to the early 2000s, and some individuals on here may have been involved with GPEC, there's only about 1% of our prospects coming from international. Now this is ramped up quite a bit, and we're going to get to a few of those international locates here in a minute. So again, for needing to be mobile and pivot a bit, our team has been doing exceptionally well, and we hope this will continue to move forward in FY22 and beyond. Next slide, please. Just a few of the recent announcements. Many of you, Chairman as well in Mesa, you've seen some of these locates. We feel very good about this. There was a big push by the state, by the ETA, and for electromechanical last month. But you can see here, nice wide range throughout the valley. Another project that many of you are probably familiar with, TSMC. We were finally able to count that. We were waiting and waiting, and we knew it was coming. And so we finally got that in. That is going to be good for the entire region. Obviously, it is located here in Phoenix, but that is going to be the next step. Some things that are not on the slide, as you've seen with Intel, with all the other advancements, specifically in that chip and semiconductor industry, we're in a very good spot moving forward. We feel very good about these. And again, we want to bring many more of these next year for everybody here on this. Next slide, please. And just lastly, so FY22 action plan, this will be the third year in a 3-year strategic plan. GPEC's strategic plan was for FY20 through 22. So we will continue to act on this in the last year, and our internal team is already working on the next strategic plan for FY22 to 24, which sounds pretty crazy because it feels like we just set up the first strategic plan. And again, this is just as a highlight. These are our 6 pillars. We're going to continue to stay focused on business attraction, but also as you can go around the spoke there, those are our key targets. And this is also part of the larger mission of improving the competitiveness of the region. We obviously working with MAG, continuing those things such as the Prop 400 extension, things that are valuable, highly valuable to our region as we move forward. And so again, we will have that, the new strategic plan moving in the next year. I will actually forward the action plan to Denise. And if anybody would like to see the FY22 action plan, we can get that in front of this committee. So again, just a brief update, Mr. Chairman, that's all I have. Happy to take any questions. If they're hard, you can give them to Steve Betts. If they're easy, I can take them.
Thank you, Tim. It's always great to see you. Are there any questions from membership? Real quick questions? Thank you, Tim. This item is an agenda for, yeah, thank you. This item is on the agenda for information discussion only. All right, if you want to change the slide. Yeah, Greater Phoenix together, okay. So are there any requests from the membership for an agenda item for future agendas? No? Okay, hearing none. Any comments from the committee that you'd like to share real quick?
Councilmember Luna, this is Mayor Hermosillo. I have a comment.
Sure.
Yes,
Go ahead,
I just wanted to thank you so much. I just wanted to thank you so much for your service on this committee. I feel like you have set the bar so high and are leaving big shoes to fill, and I'm looking forward to following in your footsteps. So thank you so much for all of the great things that you have contributed to this committee, and only onward and upward for you and for us. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mayor Hermosillo. It's been a pleasure to serve you as chair for the MAG Economic Development Council. We obviously are under unprecedented times. It's been a challenge for us, but we were able to join together via Zoom. But I do want to thank staff, Denise, Chantel, Elsa, and those other members from the MAG team that assisted me as we put these presentations together. We had a lot of fun. It was exciting. But I also want to thank you for your participation and continue to work hard to promote economic development here in Maricopa County. So thank you for participating, for your input. It's been a pleasure to serve you as your chair this past year. And we want to welcome Mayor Hermosillo, who will be taking over on August 3rd. So we're looking forward to that. So if there's no other comments, I'd like to go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Okay, the next meeting of the MAG Economic Development Committee will be held August 3rd, 2021. Thank you so much and best of luck and have a great summer.
Great job, David.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve.